Hello, and welcome to another episode of For the Record. I hope you guys are enjoying this wonderful day. Super nice outside where I live at. I love it. Was out earlier today. Super awesome. So today's record, I want to talk about two different records. I'm going to try to do a little bit different and talk about more records because I feel like talking about one record at a time just isn't enough, and sometimes the last video I made that I was going to post, I didn't like it. I didn't feel that it was, I don't know, I just didn't like it personally myself, so I'm not going to post it. This will be it instead. So one of my favorite albums of all time is Eminem Slim Shady LP. This came out on February 23rd, 1999, signed by Dr. Dre through Aftermath and Interscope Records with Jimmy Iovine. Everybody told Dre not to sign Eminem at the time because Dre didn't really do good on his last record either, which was Dr. Dre Presents The Aftermath. I don't know if people remember that album or not. This album was one of the first albums I actually got on vinyl. My brother bought this for me for my birthday, I believe. The box is pretty sweet. It's thick. It's not like the other ones where it's like super thin. Good label on it. This is an amazing album. On my first record player I did have, though, this sounded like half a second off. On my Pioneer that I've had for the last couple months, actually it sounded really, really nice. The vinyl is really nice too. I don't believe it's 180 gram, but it's 140 gram, I believe. There's no insert with it or anything, which is a bummer because I always love the artwork to this album and everything. I don't feel like they put a whole lot into the actual vinyl, but it's okay. It's the album that matters anyways. It's all the same on each side. It just says A, B, C, D. I remember growing up when this album first came out, everybody was offended by Eminem, and I honestly had this album. My buddy came back from New York, had a bootleg CD of it, and I thought it was the most amazing thing I ever heard. Just the lyrical content in it alone was just enough. I was like, what did he just say? And every time I listened to it, I feel like I'd hear something different. If I'm having like the worst day of my life or I'm upset because of something, this is my #1 go-to album of all time. Like, I can listen to this album a million more times than I already have. There was actually some good music videos on here. Like, his first music video ever was My Name Is, which is why they bought the album. I remember people that thought the album was going to be like kind of like that, and they bought it and they're like, wow, this is really explicit. They didn't like it. Like I said before, I loved it. Role Model was another video, and I believe I Just Don't Give a Fuck was one of them, and I can't remember the other one, but anyways, Guilty Conscience, that was the other one. That one actually had Dr. Dre on it as well. I believe this album is definitely in my top 10 of all time. Like, I can tell you, I've listened to this album so many times, and I can listen to it so much more in my lifetime. And I'm sorry that there's really not much to show on here, but I know that there was a special edition of this one that came out. It was like $150. I think it was like 4 LPs or something like that. I wanted to buy it, but I just didn't think it was worth it. Because mainly, I just like albums for how they are, for what they were when they first came out. And this is just the album. There's no extra tracks. There's nothing extra about it. I can tell you that the album that my buddy had, that I had a burn copy of for the longest time, the one from New York, I don't know exactly in New York wherever he got it from or whatever, but it was not the exact same thing as this. I'm telling you, to me, from what I remember, which I could be wrong, sounded more explicit. It sounded like they took out some things on this album. This one seems a little bit more mellower than the other one, but I believe the original copy that was supposed to come out was way more explicit than this one is. Either way, this is a great album. definitely in my top 10, definitely in my top 5. I can tell you that right now. Like, this hands down. Any type of bad day that I'm having, doesn't matter. This album has always been there. Music has always been there. Music is my outlet for everything. Without music, I don't know where I would be right now. I would honestly probably go crazy. So this is a killer album. If you don't have this or you haven't heard it, you should definitely check it out. Look it up on YouTube. Stream it on Spotify. If you have the money and you like this album, I suggest just going and buying it. I have like 2 copies of the CD because one was from the original from back in the day, and then I have CD I just bought like not too long ago to replace the old one, and I have it on vinyl. My buddy actually still owns it on cassette tape, which is really, really nice. It was recorded with Dr. Dre, and then some of the stuff I think was recorded before he was signed with Dre, and I just know that it's just a really good album. He had an album before it called Infinite, which is actually a really good album. If you haven't heard it, I would suggest checking it out. There's some really good songs on there. Eminem's an amazing artist. He's still making great music today. Like, even his last CD, Music to Be Murdered By, was just a great CD. Like, some people didn't like it. I don't like every song off it, but I definitely like the album. Like, I could sit there and listen to it. Like, yeah, not every song's the best, but, you know, what do you expect? He already gave you his best. I mean, his best is his first 3 albums, hands down. You're never going to get that again, so just accept it and, you know what I'm saying? Go with it. But he still makes great music today no matter what. And then, let's see, the other album I did want to talk about today, which this one's another one of my top 10 albums of all time. This one is, okay, so I'm going to try to say this. It's a really long title. This is Jedi Mind Trick's first album, and of course Vinny Paz decided to name it the most craziest thing that he could think of, because, you know, that's Vinny Paz for you. It's called The Psycho-Social, Chemical, Biological, and Electromagnetic Manipulation of Human Consumptionists. Like I said, it's really long. This one was recorded anywhere between 93 and 97. It was released November 4th, 1997. This is a super underground group. Jedi Mind Tricks, Stooped In, Me, Mankind, Vinny Paz, and then there was Jessa Law. Those were the main 3 members. I believe Apathy's on this album. Children of Babylon is on this album. There's a lot of good, Apathy, The Alien Tongue. Yeah, there's a lot of good albums, good artists on this. This is definitely one of my favorite of all times. This album's good front to back. I could listen to this a million more times than I already have. This is a special edition. The very first original version of this album only came on a 1 disc. It was 1 LP. The new one that's re-released comes on 2 LPs. This is a special press of red vinyl. There's only 1,500 of these made. I was lucky. I got a copy. I ordered it online somehow. This is the copy that I got. It's not what I expected. I expected regular black vinyl, but this red is super amazing looking. I know I've showed this record before, but this is such an amazing record. If you like Vinny Paz, he's actually more well known today than he was back then. And I remember a lot of people that didn't know of Army of the Pharaohs or Jedi Mind Tricks. I got a lot of people into Jedi Mind Tricks and Army of the Pharaohs. This is the one group I probably have seen about 5 or 6 times in my life. They're super amazing. So normally if you bought the album, you would just get this 1 disc right here, and that would just be it. But if you look on the back here, there's all these extra tracks right here, and this is just the extra stuff that they throw in, because there's like remixes to other songs on there, and then they're just like B-side stuff that they had laying around that they did with a couple other artists. And you know, this stuff right here was recorded before or after. Some of it was recorded before, some of it was recorded after. And you know, this actually originally came out on what the heck was it there? I'm trying to think of it. It wasn't on Baby Grenade Records. It was actually on Super I think it was at Super Regular Records. I'm trying to look for it. Yeah, Super Regular Records. And there was 1,000 copies made of the original one. They're not on that record label anymore, but when they put out their first EP, Amber Probe, that was on Super Regular also, and I believe there was only 1,000 of those in rotation. There really wasn't a lot of presses, because back then they actually had to pay for all the pressings that they made. They had somebody that was able to throw their label on it, but they had to pay for their own pressings. So back then it was a lot harder for them, and they pressed them, they sold them all. They were really surprised on how quick they sold, because they didn't think anybody was going to buy them, and they even thought 1,000 was just too many in the first place, because they were like, oh. Then radio stations kept calling them and stuff, asking them for their records and stuff, and so, I mean, I feel like they've always done fairly well. One of my friends that I used to work at a D'Angelo's, and next door to us used to be a Radio Shack. It's probably about almost 20 years ago. He was listening to one of the Jedi Mind Tricks albums. I think it was like second or third album. They believe it was like Visions of Gandhi. And he had a couple of Army of the Pharaohs on there, which I never heard of Army of the Pharaohs. I never heard of Jedi Mind Tricks. And he was sitting there rapping Reef the Lost Cause and just a bunch of good stuff. And I was like, nah, what is that? So he made me a mix CD, which was like between each artist. So like he would pick like the best 2 or 3 songs off each one, hand it to me on a disc, and I'd go home, listen to it. I was like, wow, that's really good. So then he recorded, I believe it was Army of the Pharaohs, Torture Papers on a disc, the whole album, and he handed that one to me, and he just labeled it Jedi Mind Tricks. So I had really no idea who it was, because he didn't label them very well. He's just like, here you go, listen to this one. I listened to it, I was like, yo, that shit's dope. And I remember buying my first Army of the Pharaohs album, Ritual Battle, and that one was just amazing. I love that album so much. Like, it's just a great album. That was their first album. No, wait, I believe Torture Papers was. I'm not 100% sure on that, but either way, Torture Papers is an amazing album too. I plan on buying that one on vinyl soon. If you ever get a chance to check out any of Jedi Mind Tricks' older stuff, definitely check it out. Jedi Mind Tricks just had an album come out not too long ago, but basically it's Vinny Paz and Stoop. It's not even the same people. Jessawa hasn't been in a while. The last album that Jessawa was on, well, I can tell you here in a second. I'm just looking up the thing because I have it right here in front of me. I just can't see where it all is. But either way, they believe it's called Begets. It's the Violence one. I know that one. But where is it? Violence Begets Violence. Yeah, that one. That's the one that Jessawa was the last one he was on. That was an amazing album. The Thief and the Fallen, that one was alright. But the Bridge of Abyss, that was just like whatever. It's pretty much, you might as well just call it Vinny Paz. I'm just calling how I see it. Like, I don't have no disrespect towards Vinny Paz or anybody else. Like, I've given them, you know, their money. I've definitely bought many albums. I have a lot of Jedi Mind Tricks gear. You know, I've been to a bunch of their shows. I definitely believe in supporting the artist, but don't put a label on it. Like, I understand Vinny Paz and Stoop and all them started Jedi Mind Tricks, which is cool or whatever, but, you know, you also started with Jessawa, and I understand that you have problems with Jessawa, but just call it what it is, you know what I mean? Don't be fucking fake about it. Like, when I come on here and I'm doing my videos, I'm trying to give you guys, like, actual facts, not fiction or whatever, and if you guys know something that I don't know, educate me. Okay, because I can always be wrong myself, and I'm okay with that. Like, I understand that I'm not always perfect, and I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm just trying to be a person that comes on here, show you guys my cool ass vinyl, give you guys, you know, what I believe is a good album, what I think is a killer album. You might disagree with me. You will not have the same views as me. It's okay. I'm not, you know, it's cool. I'm not trying to argue with anybody. I believe If you like something and it's worth that to you, then get that album. If that's the one you like, you know what I mean? Because you're the one that's going to own it at the end of the day. Who gives a shit what anybody else thinks? So, like, for me, both of these albums are solid top 10 in my book. There's nothing wrong with either one of these. Totally worth every penny of it. And honestly, I'm super excited to own this version of this one because of the red, and I love red. It's a great color. Blue and red are probably my two favorite colors other than black. So I just want to share that with you guys today. Top 10 solid albums, you know what I mean? Like, very few in my collection, but they're mainly usually like a band or an artist's first, you know, couple albums. Because I believe that's when they put in their all, you know what I mean? That's when they really sit there and they work hard, because they got to prove themselves. When they're proven and they've already sat there and bitched about everything, they ain't got really much to bitch about other than to just make good music and make more money. It's usually a good life, you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to knock them, but that's just my opinion on things. Like I said, these are my own views. Nobody else's. Nobody's paying me to say any of this stuff. I'm just trying to show you guys my vinyl collection in the time, you know, so then that way I can look back, I can be like, oh yeah, I remember when I bought that record, or oh yeah, I know when I did that, you know what I'm saying? So, but anyways, hope you guys have an amazing day. Keep it real. Yeah, hit like on the like button if you like, hit subscribe. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks for watching. Peace.